So, hi, I'm Justin Ho, the writer and director, cinematographer, and editor of this short film. This was a short film I made during my freshman year at the School of Visual Arts. It was my end of the year film that we had to do, and I was pretty obsessed with wanting to film in a cemetery back then. So, the opening of the film started at the cemetery, which was, of course, all guerrilla style. This is shot on the Sony HVR Z5U, which is an HDV camera. And of course, back then, my biggest obsession was trying to get that shallow depth of field, and there's certain techniques like making sure you shoot wide open, but still it was a small sensor, so it was still difficult to get it. But separating the subject from the background, and of course, it's something that nowadays is so easy to achieve with these DSLRs and large sensored cameras. So this is Dom Pate, and stuff like this shot here was just created on the spot when I realized that there was a pretty cool reflection on the window. I mean, I shot listed it. It was part of the project. This was the first film I did correct pre-production because it was part of the school end of the year freshman year project. So I shot listed everything, but of course when I went to shoot it, ended up not following it. But I feel like that's usually what happens, anyways, on set. And this is also the first film I shot in HD or HDV, kind of pseudo HD. And I was obsessed with Dutch angles back in the day. Actually, I'm still obsessed with it. Yeah, at SVA, I became known as the kid who always films with Dutch angles. So, one thing to mention, Kat here, this was her first film she was ever in. She had never acted before. And when I wrote the script, I wrote it with Dom in mind here. Um, but I had Kat as character, as the main character, and I was taking quite a gamble, actually, because she never acted before, and she did a awesome job. Now, stuff in the bedroom I'd like to mention that I'm actually kind of proud of. Um, this was the first film that I ever used lights to light, well, essentially to augment light. Obviously, throughout high school when I shot movies, I used whatever light was around, but a lot of these shots, like this one here, was actually at night, and I had to make it look like it was daytime. This shot here was at night as well, and the idea was to, show her room, all the little things and details, and make it seem like this magical, mystical place. I was pretty obsessed with Pan's Labyrinth back then. Um, I like the whole fairy tale aspect of it, and this was filmed at night too, I think. And we dangled a little crystal thing in front of the light to create the flicker, because I wanted to have this magical flicker look. And all experimental, of course, and first time ever lighting with lights because I was in college and we actually had that. And my obsession with reflection shots back then. I still like reflection shots, so am I kidding? Another wonderful thing with the Z5U is it has an incredible stock lens, the lens that's on the camera. That's what I mean by stock lens. And you could get these awesome macro shots that I really took for granted back then. Now with DSLRs, you have to get, special macro lenses to be able to do that. And I drew that city picture in my dorm room. I remember sitting there drawing it. Another shot here that would be really difficult with DSLR just because you have to find the right lens. This shot here is also lit at night. How I did this is I think I bounced the light off the window and it reflected basically all the shadows of the window and curtain, and it worked, and it literally looked like afternoon golden hour ish. That's just something I pride myself
It's a
on.
cat.
Kind of sad.
How was your day?
Whatever. Uh, uh, so so yeah, all these dolly moves are done
I know
with
you didn't have school
um,
today, but what do you do?
this little thing you put on the bottom of a tripod. It has wheels on it, and you can roll along the floor. And that's how we did all the dolly shots. No dolly track or anything, because as freshmen we weren't allowed to check out dolly tracks. But my high school had that wheel thing for the tripod, so I just went back to my high school and borrowed it. This was freshman year, so I was still pretty close with high school. So yeah, and another good thing with the Z5U has an built-in optical stabilizer, so you get these smooth shots even when you're dollying over hard, rough surfaces. Another thing I take for granted. Um, yeah, it's an awesome camera. Uh, so yeah, um, I always loved shots where you just linger on the characters. These long takes, you just observe and watch them doing things like the mundane things, brushing teeth, whatever. I'm brushing my teeth. Yeah, Dutch angle. Um, and of course, I was what else was I obsessed with back then? Children of Men was a big inspiration for me. It still is. The single take shots. This shot here was actually inspired from uh, this Bella Tarr film, Workmeister Harmonies. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong, but it's
Okay,
just
as I mentioned yesterday,
film
I just
composed
wanted to
of
follow
extremely
up
long takes, very
on your doctorate.
Tarkovsky-ish,
It was
and
a
I
doctorate that
loved it.
established the U.S. foreign policy of
This
the
is Mr.
Western
Divine,
Hemisphere.
my high school
Although in history class we
uh,
think of these
history
documents
teacher.
back
He
in the
taught history.
1800s as not used
Um,
today, but the
Learned a
document
lot
has been
about
used quite often in the 20th
the
century.
Holocaust,
And the
which
example
is
I
extremely
used the other
interesting.
day in class was talking
And
about
he's
the island
awesome.
of
So
Grenada in the
went back and
Caribbean.
asked him if he could
Anybody know
film
anything
after
about that
school.
island?
And all these
Anybody?
kids, I think most of them actually were there for detention.
No, nobody knows
So
anything
they
about
had
that
a pretty
island?
fun detention.
Grenada is a
One
small
thing to take
island
note of this
located in
shot
the
is there's a
Caribbean.
slight dolly
It's known
zoom
as
as
a
I'm dollying
spice
back and
island.
zooming in. It's something that I also took for granted with that camera because you have that
Spice
zoom
Island.
rocker button you
Now,
could easily
why
zoom
does the United
and you could
States
adjust it so it does a
want
nice
to send
slow
in
zoom while you dolly
troops
out.
to a Caribbean
And I
island
did a
that
bunch of dolly
really
zooms like that,
serves the U.S.? Do we really care about
which is
spices?
nice.
Usually, when we
One
invade
great
foreign
example of a dolly
countries, what
zoom
do
is
we
that
care
shot from
about?
Jaws, if
Yeah,
you know what
very
I'm
good.
talking
We care
about,
about
or
oil,
Vertigo.
geography, things that will benefit us. Okay, because the Cubans, militia,
School
and some
spelled wrong
Canadian
was actually
Marxists are sending their
suggested by
personnel.
the
No,
kid
it's
that
in the
wrote that,
island of
so I said,
Grenada.
yeah, let's do it.
So the president of the
And of
United
course, I
States is
shot on
telling
that
me,
dolly
or
thing
telling
on
the
the bottom of
president
the
of the A's,
tripod.
Glenn, we
And
haven't heard from you in a few days. Again, who was
again,
the
trying
president
to
in the
keep
1980s?
that depth, stacking people in frame. I think there's a
Hands-back
bunch more that was
suggestions
supposed to
for you
happen. I
last
wrote in the
week.
script, but we
The
didn't have time to
grades were
shoot
pretty
it,
good.
so
I must say I was very satisfied with them.
I just cut back and forth between him
However,
walking in the
some of you,
hall.
again, as I stated
Easy
the other
fix.
day, need
Good thing to
to
note,
step it up a little
I
bit.
suggest you pause the video
Does it for that row.
right
I think we have one more. Pass that last one back.
now. Pause the video and check out the questions
All
and
right.
answers. I suggest doing that. Kind of funny. I spell a lot of things wrong because I have spelling dyslexia. Yeah, that teacher walking back there obviously are extra. Not really. These tracking shots here were done with my tripod, with the legs extended beneath, and it acted as
Hey,
a steady
Orchid.
cam.
Glenn, how's it going
A lot
today,
of
huh?
people think it's an actual
Huh?
steady cam, which makes me happy. See that wheelchair in the back there? That was supposed to be our dolly,
Hey,
that
what?
wheelchair. We're gonna use that for the
Thanks for
shot.
back.
Tripod steady cam worked better.
This douchebag.
So we left the wheelchair there. Obviously, totally intentional.
Hey,
No, I forgot.
hey, asshole,
Um,
come here.
this Dutch angle was supposed to
Where's your
represent
parents,
the
kid?
awkwardness
Huh?
and
Where's your father? Where's your daddy?
fear that the character represents while he's walking away from
You know
that
why your parents left
annoying
you?
ass
Huh?
bully.
You know why your parents
Or maybe I
died?
just did it because it looked
They didn't
cool.
want to take care of a
And
douchebag son like
here's
you.
another shot where I utilized the shallow
Your
depth of
aunt's
field.
back?
Well,
Huh?
tried to at least,
What
as
else?
much as I could. And the great thing with the Z5U, despite it having a 1/3 sensor, which is a small sensor, and it's difficult to get that shot depth of field. So whenever I did get it, like in that shot or this shot, well, this shot was easy because I zoomed in and she's separated from the background, but that shot was pretty close. And the Z5 did a great job at achieving that. And I think
Pathetic.
a lot of it is due
No
to the
one
fact that it
loves
was my
you.
first time shooting HD, and you could really separate that focus easier. Yeah, the fight scene. I always love fight scenes. Um,
I'm gonna kill your parents.
and I think Dom's did such an awesome job. So did Jem, the asshole bully kid he's fighting. He did a great job at being an asshole.
Get the knife. Get the knife.
And yeah, this was shot at higher shutter speed to give it that staccato effect, all that good stuff. Dom did awesome. We shot this twice. The first time they're kind of just fighting, and then told Dom the second time, just start screaming. We need more screaming. It works so well. And he did a good job at screaming and getting pissed and fighting. And of course, you have them running way smoother, and then you cut back the other person. This was inspired from The Return. If you ever watched the film The Return, there's a sequence in the beginning where these two brothers are running and chasing each other, and it's just a beautiful shot. And I like this shot too. Yeah, another great. All this done with the stock lens and the Z5U, no multiple lenses. 'Cause back then, I don't think I was aware of multiple. I was in college. They taught us that. Another thing I loved about what I was obsessed with is doing these long takes. There's stuff like this where the camera just lingers and goes around the character, and you just observe stuff. Stuff you could probably get away with in a short film, maybe not in a feature. Or maybe you could. I don't know what I'm talking about. Why am I doing this commentary? This is so narcissistic, forgive me. But yeah, here another shallow depth of field, which was obviously not as easy to achieve on a camera like that. So again, I pride myself on being able to do that, which of course is totally pointless now, because it's so easy to achieve now. And this shot actually went on a lot longer. Obviously I cut it. It was a long dragging shot, starting from the sidewalk all the way to their house. So I was obsessed with these long, lingering shots. Maybe I was just I watched a lot of Tarkovsky films in my freshman year, and none of them were assigned to me as a project or an assignment. I just had them available because at my school, SVA, they had all these Tarkovsky films in the library, and I loved long takes, so I just watched a lot of them. And yeah.
What happened?
So a lot of Dutch angles, obviously. My obsession with Dutch angles back in the day. And whatnot. And again, here the idea is that she's just in her room, in her own little world, this magical place. This shot here again, lit at night to make it look like it was day.
Fuck you. Boy, what? You gonna punch me, huh? What do you think
I
you
think
are?
Dom is awesome, being pissed. Good job, Dom.
Anything, you weren't anything before, you're not anything.
I know I can't be them. I know I'm not them. I know I'm never gonna be them.
You know,
Oh, this was natural light. I don't think I lit this at all. Yeah, just the light, left the door open.
1 second.
I still do that anyways. Maybe I'm too lazy.
And just think about how annoying you can be.
So yeah, this shot coming up was inspired from Slumdog Millionaire. The camera just goes down the hall real fast towards the door. Oh, I love Slumdog. Oh, that movie had a shit ton of Dutch angles. So many. For those of you who don't know what Dutch angles are, that's when the camera's slanted. It's like a slanted angle. It's whatever. So, yeah, this scene was hard for Dom, because he needed to be pissed, and he was in a good mood when we shot it, and it was difficult to make him pissed. But he did an awesome job. And of course, all lit naturally, this one, I made purposely to be dark, because it's a dark, depressing scene, obviously. What more can be said? So now at this point, my whole idea was to have absolutely no dialogue in the rest of the film. And I'm kind of happy I was able to do that. Except for the end. And yeah, the picture on the wall you're going to see right There, that picture. I drew that also. Awesome, right? Yeah. Again, macro shots took for granted back then. Amazing camera. This was lit. I think that was lit at night as well. Make it look day, and you'll see stuff lit at day, and it cuts very well. Here, obviously during the daytime. Um, yeah, this was at night. I remember lighting this at night, and I was happy with the result. And achieving that shallow depth of field as well. And cutting between this stuff, which was shot during the day, shot during the night, you can't tell. And shot during the day. Oh, obviously, I'm just gonna start mentioning everything now. This was shot at night, I think. I think every time you don't see the window, it was shot at night, and I had to make it look like it was day. I just pride myself on that. I'm sorry. I'm kind of sad. So, yeah. Yeah, I was location scouting, and when I saw that Cat had that music box thing, automatically we're using that in the shot. It's just something magical about it and wonderful. And yeah, and here's a dolly zoom. Dolly zoom out the window. Again, very easy to achieve on that camera, the Z5U. And again, achieving these shallow depth of field shots, you need, to zoom in a lot with those cameras. These bedsheet things, never do that. Extremely dangerous. She didn't really climb out. That's my Jeep there. So I was actually pulling iris at this. You see the exposure will go up soon. There we go. And yeah, another long tracking shot, which, yeah. And yeah, Kat did a great job. This was, it's hard to believe this is her first time ever acting in something. Another awesome shot up the field, yay. Back then it was awesome. And again, this whole part of the film, I wanted no dialogue, just music. And the piano playing right now in the background was played by Don Pate. Original score. Yeah, this shot was fun. Another great thing, being able to get those telephoto shots on that camera. And I love seeing the heat waves in the back. And the perspective and the mailboxes stacked on top of each other that way. And this is our waiting, obviously, to go to the city. If I'm hoping, assuming you've watched this before listening to this commentary. But this shot matches this shot. Oh, that's Dutch that way. This is Dutch that way. So it's like she's looking down on herself as if she's looking back to where she was. This is actually my car on our way to the city. This is actually a mirrored image. I think we were going the other direction, and I mirrored it to match the previous shot. This was done with an actual glide cam in Times Square, because back in the day, shooting in Times Square is awesome. So, glide cam in Times Square. Here's your typical, I'm in New York, so I'm going to stop and look up and have the camera go around me. Yeah. You have to do that if you're filming in New York for the first time. You have to. Yeah. And I'm just purposely leaving stuff out of focus. It's always cool. It's as if she's kind of walking towards somewhere, not knowing where exactly. Now this cemetery stuff, I was just obsessed with fun to shoot in a cemetery back then. Obviously this is all guerrilla, stolen shots. You weren't supposed to be there. And it was super cold and windy, and it worked very well, because that shot with the hair blowing was cool. Reminded me of the shot from The Diving Bell and the Butterfly with the hair. So yeah, it's her visiting her dead parents. How depressing. 2 random tombstones, I don't know who they were. But, yeah, it was a pretty exhilarating thing to shoot because I knew we weren't supposed to be there, and we actually got kicked out. We were able to pull off one last shot before getting kicked out, which was great. You know, do what you gotta in a cemetery. I think this was one of the first shots I thought of when I was writing the film, just her laying on the grass, this shot. And I think it was right after we shot this shot, we got kicked out. And now we hear her talking. It's the first time throughout the whole film you kind of hear her voice, and you know that was the whole point. And I always liked the idea of the cemetery looking like a city and an actual New York City in the background. When I wrote the script, I oftentimes would turn the lights off in my dorm room and had an awesome view outside, and I would just stare at the city and write this film. That's how I wrote it. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. So the song playing right now during the end credits is by Steve Wolf, who I found online actually. It was another project assigned to us freshman year was to do a montage, I think. Anyway, I was looking up montage stuff on the internet, and I somehow stumbled on a photo website, someone's photography, and Steve Wolf, one of his songs was playing there, and I loved it, so I looked up who is Steve Wolf, and I contacted him and asked if I could use his song Troubled Days at the end of my film, and of course, you know, he wanted to see the film first, so I showed it to him, and he enjoyed it, liked it, and said, yeah, sure. And Steve Wolf is great, he's awesome, and I've been using his music in all of my films since then. so yeah, he's a great guy, and he's extremely talented. And I want to thank all these people here, obviously. And since the credits is going, I might as well mention other stuff. Probably what makes me proudest about this film is when I had the trailer, I put a trailer up on Vimeo freshman year of it that showed shots of the film and stuff like that, and people commented asking what lens adapter did you use, what depth of field adapter did you use, and I always liked being able to answer their questions and say I didn't use any depth of field adapter. It was all done in camera with the stock lens. For those of you who don't know what a depth of field adapter, it's a lens adapter that you could put photo lenses on, and it projects the image onto a plane, a focus thing, and then you focus onto that and you get this shallow depth of field produced by the lens. I'm probably explaining it totally wrong. My mind is dead right now, but that's how you had to achieve that shallow depth of field back in the day when I made this film, is to use a lens adapter, and I didn't have access to one, so I had to achieve it with various techniques, which is obviously completely pointless now because we all have these large censored cameras, these DSLRs. It's so easy to do, and it's so funny watching kids these days with their DSLRs getting this beautiful shallow depth of field that back in the day was so difficult to get, and I pride myself back then on being able to do it with the camera that I used to film this movie. But nowadays it's so easy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed me bullshitting. Thank you, and keep on making movies, and Vimeo should have an audio commentary option.